there are many different approaches to problems of evidence, problems of coherence, but basically it's a debate. So there are many different propositions and there is no just one solution. So I think that it's important to consider that Bayesianism is a sort of pragmatic. So there is not just one rule that we can apply, or we have Bayes theorem that we apply constantly, but any case must be judged according to its specificity. So we have pragmatic rules which allows to assess the probability of hypotheses, but it really depends on the kind of problem. And there is no just one formula allowing for be sure that the hypothesis is the best possible hypothesis that we have. So it's just to give you an idea of this alive debate around the application of Bayesianism in science, at least, where we look for objectivity. So we look for a way of measuring things, or of providing reasons to believe in some prediction, in some hypothesis. But basically, in Bayesianism, we have some good rules which work. Good, some is better than another depending on the problem they are applied to. But basically, there is no solution. So it's not just one method that we can apply every time and it's the correct one. There are many different approaches, many different methods for calculating the priors, the support of the evidences, and it's dependent on the cases. So I think it's important to consider this pragmatic aspect of Bayesianism, where we have rules of thumb that we can use and they produce good results, but we cannot assess which is the best one, which is the one what we have to apply anytime. The idea is that we are all rational and we are all rational in the same way. So the underlying hypothesis is that there are rational agents, and rational agents can have different intuitions, but the method that they apply to their intuition is more or less the same. So I think that the idea is not to constrain intuitions or to constrain belief a priori, because that would mean that there is something that we ought to believe and that we ought to believe, and because it's in some way rationally normative. So the idea is not to constrain in this way, which is the logic attempt. So from the attempt of logic probability, the idea is, okay, there is some beliefs that you but ought to have given some evidences because it's logic. So if you don't believe this given this evidence, you are irrational. From the subjective perspective, the idea is that you can start from your priors, whatever you like, but you need coherence and different coherences. So there are different conceptions of coherence. We will see better this in Savage. But a rational agent is coherent. Then there is a normative definition of coherence, but it's more a pragmatic definition of coherence. And so the idea of a Dutch book, I think it's important for this, because the Dutch book is the idea that, okay, I don't prove coherence by checking the beliefs and saying, okay, these beliefs and these beliefs, they are current together. But the Dutch book is kind of checking the consequences. So it's checking if the bets that I make by following my beliefs is a good one or not. So it's kind of verified a posteriori rather than a priori. So we don't ask for a priori principles constraining beliefs, but we assume that a rational agent is able to put bets which are provide him with a hope, at least, of getting his prize. Bayesian fields, we have extreme subjective positions and less subjective positions. And for example, the idea of measuring evidences and measuring the weight of testimony, it's a way of saying, okay, we have some objective criteria constraining the beliefs, so constraining the priors. And I see the importance, I mean, because it's science. So from a scientific standpoint, this is kind of important, because we expect science to be objective. So we expect science not to be just a subjective belief, but to be more objective. So we can find criteria and discussions about debates about how to measure, how to set these criteria. So to have a less subjective Bayesianism. The problem is that it will never be objective. If it is objective, is something else. It's another kind of theory. Then the idea is, of course, trying to find pragmatically what is more efficient, what works better.